Hello, welcome, Miss Amy or Mr.
Miss Amy.
Miss. All right, got it first time. Hello. Right, do we wait for more participants to be in?
Yeah, you can start now, I think.
You can start now, yeah? All right, cool. All right. And we are live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar of World Environment Day on the 5th of June, 2021. Endorsed by Tropical Rainforest Conservation Research Center, or we call it short as TRCRC, and Gombak Rover Scout Council, or KBG for short, Kerana Bersekutu Gombak. And I'm your host, Fira, representative of KBG for this lovely Saturday evening. So how's everyone today? And I hope it has been splendid, and now we're just chilling and taking a break with today's webinar on Zoom with everyone. Come and type in the chats and tell us where you come from, where you're from, and maybe you're from a KBG as well, or maybe you're from another crew. From our registration, we have around 50 participants as far as I know, but we will be having more participants soon, but we'll be starting shortly. All right. So, hi, it's from Hyrule. He's from Selayang, and Mr. Wakif Akil is from Kelantan. That's very far. Anyone else from other states, perhaps, or maybe not from the Scout movement? Okay, we can see from Shafiq Zainuddin from Gombak for love. Mr. Muhammad Imran from Jengke Pahang. Jengke Pahang. Is that your home or you're at your university? And also we have Muhammad Irwan Shah from Bukit Jalil and Miss Aimi from Goba. All right. So just so you know, we also have a virtual background, which I believe has been shared on the chats. So you can check the chats for the guide to change the background. Oh, okay. Imran is at campus. Stay safe at the campus. And just want to say, to mention that during the talk, during the whole duration of the talk, we would like to ask you to mute your mic. And we will also give you a Google link at the end of the session for you to put any suggestions or, and also we will have the link for you to have your e-certificate for today's events. So do we start now? Okay. So today we'll be joining the talk will be given by Ms. Afzaa Aziz from TRCRC. And as before we start, we will be knowing Ms. Afzaa a bit. She is a King's College London's master's degree graduate in sustainable cities. So she's a tropical girl at heart, I believe, and she ventured to Costa Rica to learn further about nature conservation. And after spending time abroad in Costa Rica, she returned home in Malaysia to join TRCRC as the project manager for Elmina Rainforest Knowledge Center. And she hopes to address the growing disconnection between human and nature. On her leisure time, you'll be typically find her upside down in her yoga practices or hunting down the city's food scene for the best curry puffs. So I believe she's a curry puff connoisseur, so we can ask her for the best curry puff that she knows. An interesting bio for a genuinely lovely person. So Miss
Hi,
Afzaa, hello Miss Afzaa, lovely to meet you.
Hi,
So,
everyone.
hello, hi.
Happy World Environment Day.
Happy World Environment Day, everyone. All right, so we'll be starting our talk now, and we'd like to remind everyone to mute their mics as the talk goes live, and any questions at any point of the seminar could be written down in the chat, and we will have Q&A sessions at the end of the sessions. All right, let's have the stage for Miss Afzaa Aziz.
Thank you, Hira, for the introduction.
No
and
trouble.
I will share the contact for the best curry puff. So welcome to our webinar today. So my name is Afzaa, I'm from TRCRC. We're hosting this webinar this year in conjunction with World Environment Day. So what makes this year special is because this year's theme is focused on ecosystem restoration, and it's to kickstart the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. So what it is, it's a global mission to restore and revive billions of hectares globally. And from today's webinar, I hope that you guys learn a little bit more about Malaysia's rainforests, how to save them, and what is the importance of conserving Malaysia's rainforests. So this is just me. Fira already gave me my introduction, so I don't need to go any further. But just my job title is I'm the project manager of the Elmina Rainforest Knowledge Center, and that's under the Tropical Rainforest Conservation and Research Center. So Hyrule is now going to share a link with you, and it's a poll. And basically, I would like you guys to answer in the poll. If I say the word conservation, what is the first word that comes to mind? Protection. Replanting. Sustainability. Restoration, yes, that's this year's theme. Preserve. Logging, yes. So in my talk, I'm going to be talking about all of these buzzwords, so to speak. Yeah, nature is a popular one. Nature conservation is very important. Planning, absolutely very important. Nice. Okay, so just I wanted to do this exercise to make this a little bit interactive and to understand like where your guys' heads are at when it comes to conservation. So now I'm just going to explain what conservation means to us here at TRCRC. So the reason why I did that exercise is to explain what conservation means and how it fits into the bigger picture of protecting our environment. So I like to think of it in a spectrum. So on the one side, you have preservation, and on the other side, you have exploitation, and somewhere in the middle, you have conservation. So preservation is basically when you want to keep nature completely as is. So you restrict all human activity, no vehicles going by, no logging permits are being sent out. It's completely pristine and completely protected so that it's left untouched. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have exploitation. Exploitation means when you take and take and take from nature without thinking about the consequences and what will happen when it's all gone. Conservation is when you realize that nature and humans have to coexist, and we both need each other, right? And we cannot just take and take without leaving anything for our future generations, because that would be unsustainable. And so therefore, the resources that we take from nature must be taken responsibly. So examples of nature reserves are like permanent nature forest reserves, where no one is allowed in, so it's pristine. Conservation is something like community forests, where people are allowed in, there's some activity allowed, but we still carry out activities to replenish what is in there, so future generations can enjoy what is in there. And exploitation on the other end of the spectrum, like what you guys put up in the poll, is like things like logging. You know, when concessions are given out, a lot of these logging companies don't really have a plan to replenish what they've taken. So they destroy lots and lots of acres of land for either logging or agriculture or farming, that kind of thing. And without replenishing the resources, a lot of species then become extinct and no longer exist on our planet. And as we see that in our generation today, just today I heard like another rhino is now completely extinct. So these are the type of things that happen when we exploit nature. The pandemic is also an example of that. You know, the rise of zoonotic diseases when we push beyond our planetary boundaries. So yeah, so conservation seeks the sustainable use of nature by humans, so we can coexist, we can use it to survive and only take what we need. So need before greed. And the key concept is here to coexist. So the reason why I've explained these concepts is because at TRCRC, we believe in a practical approach where we combine both elements of conservation as well as preservation. Both human beings still need these nature resources to survive, but we have to use the resources responsibly. And we also believe that some parts of nature that are untouched should stay that way. So for example, like, of course, this decade on restoration is focused on restoration, but restoration should be the last solution. The first solution should be to leave it alone. So what we do at TRCRC is our vision is to conserve and preserve rare, endangered, and threatened native tropical rainforest tree species by restoring our rainforest and address the critical rate of biodiversity loss in the area. We aim to spread awareness, similar to what I'm doing with you guys today and talking to you guys today. We aim to look for solutions through sustainable development and sustainable management. So I'm going to be talking about this particular type of species. They're quite interesting. So here's what they look like. They have wings. They're called the dipterocarps. Why am I talking about these species? Is because they are a keystone species of the native forest in this region, and they are completely essential to the function and structure of Malaysia's rainforests because they make up 80% of our Malaysia's rainforest canopy. This therefore is a very important habitat for both flora and fauna. And unfortunately, about 56% of the dipterocarps belonging to this family are threatened due to logging. So what's in a name, right? So the word Dipterocarpaceae family derives from Greek, and the Latin name dipterocarp means D2 winged carpus fruit. So dipterocarp. So while the name suggests it's a two-winged fruit, or rather two-winged seed, depending on the species, it may vary between 0 wings all the way up to 5 wings. And these are the known species mainly in tropical lowland rainforests. There are about 16 different genera and about 695 known species. So the different genera in this Dipterocarpaceae family are the genera Shoria, Vatica, Hopia, Dipterocarpus, and so on. So what else is special about these trees? So there's plenty of reasons why our primary rainforests, primary focus is to regenerate this specific species. Number one is that trees that belong to this family have been heavily logged in the past because they belong to the heavy wood category, making them very desirable for construction and furniture. And this unfortunately means that their numbers are greatly dwindled in our forests. And number two, the forests these specific species, they do not flower every year. So they have a very unique biology and very slow reproductive cycle. So the seeds are produced only every 5 to 7 years. And there's a caveat here, obviously due to climate change, this biological cycle is a lot more difficult to predict, making the intervals a lot longer, and therefore slowing down their ability to regenerate naturally themselves. Number three, the fruits are relatively woody, meaning they're heavy in a sense, well, heavy compared to the wings that they have. And this limits the distance that they can go with the wind. So therefore, this poor seed dispersal makes the recovery of this species rather difficult and has quite a lot of limitations. So without this dipterocarp species in a forest, there is no succession from a secondary forest to a primary climax forest. They're also relatively high in oil content, which means that they're heavily predated by ants. So as soon as they fall to the forest floor, they are at risk already from being predated by ants and other insects. And so therefore, greatly reducing the number of those that survive in the wild if they were to naturally regenerate themselves. And of course, these trees are our pride. One of the tallest tropical trees in the world and one of the oldest trees in Malaysia belong to the Dipterocarpaceae family. So this is something that some of you may or may not already be familiar with. It's the IUCN Red List. Basically, it's an inventory of global conservation status of different biological species, both flora and fauna. It uses a set of criteria to evaluate the risk of extinction. So it varies all the way from least concerned all the way up to extinct. Extinct meaning they no longer exist on the planet, least concerned meaning the population is still viable. The dipterocarp species that we work with at TRCRC fall within the category of vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered. So I'm just going to show you a video of quickly how we save the forests with TRCRC. So now you've watched the whole process from scouting seedlings to collecting and germinating and then replanting. So this is just our general project protocols on how we carry out our work. So in a little bit more detail, what we do is number one, we locate, mark, identify, and monitor the mother trees. So where these seeds will come from. Number two is we'll access the mother trees when they're ready for collection. So usually that tends to be when there's a mass fruiting event, which is once every 5 to 7 years. So currently we are experiencing a masting season, which is quite interesting. Number 3, if needed, we need to use big slingshots to get seeds, as you saw in the video. Then when the seeds fall to the forest floor, then we collect the seeds or wildlings from the forest floor, which we then transport back into our nursery, where we process for germination and transplant. And then once the seeds become a certain height, then we bring it to the polybag stage, where they grow in their polybags to mature into little saplings for between 1.5 to 2 years. And then they go through a process of hardening before they get planted back into the wild. So what you see here is the tropical rainforest living collections. So in order to safeguard our tropical rainforest plant species to ensure a stable ecosystem, TRCRC has established conservation sites. So because the nature of the seeds are recalcitrant, meaning when they fall to the forest floor, they cannot be stored, they cannot be frozen, they will be germinated immediately or they die. So therefore, we've created this living collection nurseries where we collect the seeds, we germinate, and then we plan for restoration efforts, and we can have planting material for our restoration projects, because that's the ultimate goal. So we have 3 sites now. The 2 sites that we've worked with since 2012 is in Perak and in Sabah. So our site in Perak is where we are in partnership with the Perak Forestry Department, where we look after 500 hectares of the Amanjaya Forest Reserve. So the Amanjaya Forest Reserve is located on the between the Belum and Temenggor Forest Reserve, therefore creating a wildlife corridor that connects the 2 forests. So forest connectivity is very important, and is why the theme of the UN Decade of Restoration is highlighting this, is because they needs a lot of wildlife needs a lot of space, right? So the reason why we see a lot of numbers deplete in the wild is because they simply don't have enough space. So we're encouraging more space by connecting forests together. So we also have a site in Mersuli in Lahad Datu, Sabah. This is also in conjunction with the Sabah Forestry Department. We look after this 224 hectares for 99 years. And over here is a different location. It used to be an ex-palm oil plantation that's regenerated back into forest. So we look after 224 hectares there. So our newest location that I'd like to draw your attention to is in Elmina and Selangor. This is more of like our flagship project, which is our HQ, our urban public-facing one that's not so remote, that's easy for people to access. Hyrule works with us with one of your scouts, and it's a smaller site. It's about 1.09 acres in Elmina, Selangor. So I know that obviously I'm talking to a group of scouts. So just to highlight the work that we've done in the past. So we did an environmental education workshop with over 200 Sabah scouts. And I think it was in the Scouts Nature Park in Sandakan. We teamed up with about 200 of them to plant 300 trees all over the park. And the event was organized with the head of Persekutuan Pengakap Sabah, which is a youth organization I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, and a member of the World Organization of the Scout Movement. So this is just one of the projects that we highlight. We obviously do a lot of different work across our 3 locations, but this is just one to highlight for you guys. So drawing your attention back to the Elmina Rainforest Knowledge Center. So we've partnered up with a partner called Sime Darby Properties, which used to be an agricultural business and now they're a property developer. So part of our sustainability initiative, or rather their sustainability initiative, is they engaged with TRCRC to find out what is the best way that they can carry out biodiversity conservation in the area. So it used to be palm oil plantation. The location is right next to Bukit Cheraka Forest Reserve, and that is one of the last remaining forest reserves left in Selangor. So of course, there's a very, very important need to conserve and protect and draw attention to why it's important to conserve this area. We also operate the Rare, Endangered and Threatened Native Tree Nursery, and I'll be explaining a little bit more about that in the following slides. We also focus on environmental education, research and development. They're currently carrying out a biodiversity study where they study both flora and fauna in the area. We also aim to do capacity building by providing local employment to the community and supply native trees. So I would like to highlight this here because You know, you guys were talking about the 100 billion trees campaign, right, in the chat group earlier, and basically it's more than just about tree planting, right? It's not just about planting any type of species, like whether it's a flower tree or a fruit tree. The idea is that we want it to be native to Malaysia, which means that the trees come from the Malaysian rainforest and it's endemic to our either specific locality or specific to the region. So that's why we focus on native trees, because introducing different species it won't be restoring the ecosystem in the right way, basically what I'm trying to say. And also when you're planting trees, there's so many different type of strategies that you can use, right? So you can plant trees that are rainforest trees, you can plant trees that are fruit trees, but they all serve a different function. So if it's for carbon sequestration, rainforest trees are the ones that you plant. You know, if it's, you know, to build a nursing canopy and, you know, for a fruit forest, then you plant fruit trees. So each different type of trees and different type of species will have different functions for the environment. So here you have the Lintah Bukit, otherwise known as Hopia helferi. It's been listed as critically endangered in 1998 by the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. It's a medium-sized tree. It can grow up to 20 to 37 meters tall. So that's still quite big for a medium-sized tree. This wood is used for light and heavy construction, including handicrafts. The young fruits are green in color, and the mature fruits have dark brown wings, as you can see on the image on the left. As you can see in the image in the middle, the seeds are really, really small. They're like super tiny. They're about 6 to 8 millimeters diameter and 6 to 11 millimeters in length. So they're really, really small. And on the right side, this is what they look like after they've germinated about 3 months. So they're very, very, very slow growing species. In about 30 years, only then when it reaches its maturity, it'll be so big that you wouldn't even be able to wrap your arms around it. But they are very slow growing, and hence why they're critically endangered. And over here, I'd like you guys to type in the chat box what you think this species is. Does anyone know? Harold, don't answer, it's cheating because you know. I'll give you guys a hint. It's Malaysia's national tree. Chengal, that's one answer. Okay, Hyrule, you can answer. It starts with M. Merbau. Yeah, so merbau. It's pokok merbau. So this is what the pokok merbau looks like after germinating for 6 weeks. So in the germination phase, the merbau grows quite quickly in comparison to the Hopia helferi. But of course, once it goes into the wild, it'll take a very, very long time, 30 to 40 years for it to mature to full size. So this is what they look like after 6 weeks. Here is what they look like after about 10 weeks. So it's quite exciting. So if I were to compare the two images, left and right, what you can see is the main seed, the circular bit. It's also called a cortylizin, and that one has already fallen off in 10 weeks, which means then it's ready for transplant. So I also like to draw your attention to our volunteer programs that we've done. So TRCRC have also partnered up with SEI, which is the Selangor Youth Community, which is an NGO focused on serving the disadvantaged youth in Selangor under the royal patronage of the Raja Muda Selangor. And they came over for about 2 weeks to volunteer with us, where they carried out lots and lots of different fun activities. We taught them the wildlife sightings and observations. We did a compost and soil mixing workshop with another NGO called Ground Control. You know, that's definitely something that you guys can research in your own time, you know, what's the importance of compost and how easy it is to do. Maybe that's something that we can explore to do again in the future. And this is also some pictures of how the volunteers help out in our nursery. So seedling care also includes transplanting seedlings, watering, weeding, mixing soil, pest control, this kind of stuff. So this is how they've transplanted the Hopia helferi. So as you can see, it's still very small, but the cortalizans, the circular bits have already fallen off, which means it's now ready to be transplanted into the polybag. And it'll be in this stage for about 1 to 2 years. Before then we can find a place to use it to restore some of Malaysia's rainforests. And some of the other work that we do in our nursery, so this is what it looks like when we were doing seed processing. So just so you guys know, we're currently facing a masting season. So what mast seeding or masting is basically when all the plant species synchronously flower. And once they flower, they'll produce seeds. And then these seeds will be ready to collect in about a few months' time. So the period of masting currently is between the months of May to July. And then in 3 months from then, let's say around September, October time, is when the seeds will be ready for collection, and where we'll be doing a lot of seed processing at the Elmina nursery. Let's say if we collect seeds from one parent tree, it's usually about up to 1,000 seedlings per tree. So you can imagine we'll have, tens of thousands of seeds to process in our nursery in the subsequent months to come. This is how we germinate them in our germination beds. So our germination beds only consist of sand. So this is so the water can flow through. And then we just monitor them as they start to grow and offshoot their roots. So other nursery activities that you can see here. So this is like the watering. This is me looking after the merbau babies. And this is Zaiman, our executive director, working the bobcat to move the trees around. And here I have a surprise video from one of your very own Gombak Scouts, Hairul Abdullah. So he's been an intern with us at TRCRC for the last couple of months. And he's just basically going to share with you his experience with us and how it's made an impact on him.
Hello guys, my name is Hairul. I'm intern at TRCRC. Basically what I'm doing here is doing biodiversity study where we take sample of the trees, we took photo of the flora and fauna. I'm from engineering background. Before this, I never do something like forest study. Forest study is really new to me, so it's quite fun because I like to go outdoor adventures with a good friends here. We have a good family here. We have kakak, we have adik, we have Sifu here. All the things teaching you to accepting a new thing. So the process of learning is quite easy. So I'm really thankful to TRCRC for being a good teacher. I see the trees on the roads. It seems different to me. It make an impact to me. So how these trees in the roads can be in the future can be a big tree and giving a benefit to the peoples in the residents. And also looking at the birds nowadays, we start to looking at, oh, what is this bird? So what's the characteristic? How is the back, the belly? You start looking at the colors to study more. TRCRC, the main is conservation. That means how we can go to the forest, but how do you benefit to it? It's not just like you go in there and do what stuff you like. You want to hiking or cycling, but what can you do to reserve it? Means how, because in there is not our place. It's the animal there, it's the flora and fauna there. So you have to think about that because most of us is we going there is we thinking about us, you're not thinking about them. So after this, you must think also about them and put yourself at the bottom. So think about them first. For TRCRC, I really say thank you for SMT me. It's a good chance for me to learn about the nature because I'm from Scout, so I'm trying to develop the sustainable development goals. So I'm learning a lot from here. And also to Tim say thank you for introducing me to the TRCRC. It's a really good opportunity for me. That's it. Thank you. Sama-sama naik katanya. Hello, guys.
So yeah, now you've heard from Hyrule and the work that he does with us. So I just want to highlight the importance of then conservation and restoration. So all the work that's carried out in our nurseries are to support our goal to safeguard Malaysia's endangered trees and also to restore Malaysia's rainforests. So this is a step-by-step process. Of course, it has its steps. So with our new location in Elmina, we are in need of helping hands to kickstart the Selangor project, which is why I'm talking to you guys today. At CRCRC, our core conservation goal is to lead landscape-wide protection and restoration projects. And it starts with seed surveys and seed collections because restoration cannot happen without saplings. So, you know, we did a webinar with the federal government, the 100 Million Trees campaign. And what we are in shortage of is the seeds to plant 100 million trees. Like, of course, if you want to plant 100 million trees, it's a very ambitious goal and it's amazing, but where do these trees come from? So it has to start from somewhere. So it first starts with seed survey and seed collection. And as I mentioned, you can then, there's 4 steps that you are able to help us here. So 1 is the seed survey and collection. 2 is the nursery management. So a lot of the work of helping us out in the nurseries to look after the seeds, to look after the saplings. And then when we can carry out tree planting event, inshallah, in the future, when pandemic is a little bit, our curve is flatter, then we can start carrying out some tree planting events together. And then that will support the core reforestation goals. So I think this is a good time for me to answer some frequently asked questions about seed collection. So I did a few webinars about this, and I've had some questions about the natural way for these trees to seed to grow, and why human intervention is needed. So the reason why is because, as previously mentioned, the natural way for them to grow is for them to wait for each moss season, for them to produce flowers, to then produce seeds that will fall to the forest floor and grow. But because this is very dependent on the weather condition, the flowering period varies a lot and it lasts between a few weeks to a few months. And because the seeds are recalcitrant, they have to be germinated immediately because they cannot lose a certain percentage of their moisture level, otherwise they're no longer viable. So the survival rate, if they were to naturally be regenerated, is like a few in 1,000. Whereas with human intervention, we can increase that rate. Let's say if we were to collect 1,000 seeds, we can germinate 90% of that. And let's say if we were to replant that in the wild, the mortality rate would be maybe 10 to 15% may die off, because obviously like they can be quite sensitive to when they're moved. But yeah, so the success rate of human intervention and human assistance is quite important, specifically with the slow growing species, because otherwise we'd be waiting a very, very long time for them to naturally regenerate by themselves. And the way that we are using nature outpaces the way that they can generate themselves. Just to highlight some of the restoration efforts that we're doing. So we've partnered up with Nestle's Project Relief after their success in the Kinabatangan area in Sabah. And they've made a pledge to plant 3 million trees in 3 years. We are their official partner to help them out with this project. So we're carrying out all of this work in various locations in Selangor, Pahang, etc. To help them with this pledge. We are also funded by Yayasan Sam Darby, and they aim to restore 100 hectares of the Amanjaya Forest Reserve. As I mentioned just now, that's both to do with restoration of the forest as well as serving as a wildlife corridor for forest connectivity. Our executive director, Dr. Zaiman, is also a consultant on the 100 Million Trees campaign, so he's been helping them out to fulfill this ambitious goal that they want to plant 100 million trees by 2025. And other restoration projects are with other corporate sponsors that aim to plant, let's say, X number of trees in various different locations across the country. So how can you guys help? So as I mentioned, there is opportunity to help at every step of the way, but perhaps a little bit more urgently, what we need help with is one would be seed processing in the Elmina nursery in the months to come, and also an Elmina nursery volunteer. So we always need extra set of hands in the to volunteer at the nursery. We have obviously a lot of endangered trees to look after, and sometimes we can get a bit overwhelmed with a lot of work. So it'll be nice if I could get some of you guys to come and volunteer with us, to come and help us, and also an opportunity to learn more about how to care for these saplings, how to care for these seeds, and play your part in saving Malaysia's rainforest too. So thank you guys for listening. I'm going to open the floor now to questions. If you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to ask.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Afzaa, for the insightful and informative talk regarding restoration and TRCRC's mission. And it's very interesting because we as Scouts also are actively participating in terms of nature activities like conservation and also camping. And at the same time, we are educating people on the importance of keeping the nature as is and also to improve it. Also, could I have the time to read one question from our group, the KBG group? One is to you or to TRCRC, sorry. What is the most suitable tree that we can plant and which is good for our ecosystem?
Ooh, interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what purpose. So as I said just now, like different trees serve different functions. So if it's, okay, so if I were to talk about reforestation strategies, right? So let's say we wanted to restore riparian zones. So riparian zones is basically the area between where the river meets the forest. So it's like I guess in the riverbank area, that's a buffer zone, right? So if we wanted to plant species there, we have to plant specific type of species. And the reason why we would want to do that is because waterways are now one of the only ways that that wildlife can have connected forest. Obviously, because all around them is being either degazetted or deforested. So waterways are then, a key area that we can help to restore, for example. Or if we wanted to restore, let's say, an area that's completely barren and there's like nothing there at all, then we wouldn't plant our endangered species first because they require shade to grow. So if in that strategy, what you would do is you would plant fast-growing pioneer trees first to create a nursing canopy before we can introduce our endangered and threatened species. If you are interested in agroforestry, for example, then you can plant food. It's otherwise known as a food forest. You can plant, I guess, food sources in every layer of the forest. So for example, on the very bottom of the ground, in your cover crop area, you can have things like root vegetables, like your ubi kayu. And then in the medium, you can have your fruit trees where you can have all the different types of fruits. And then I guess maybe like the creepers, like in between can be like your vanilla pods are they're in the family of orchids. So those are also a source of food as well. So it really depends on the function that you're looking at. If it's for carbon, then of course, rainforest trees are the only ones that really sequester the right amount of carbon that will help our planet. So yeah, it really depends on the function.
Thank you so much for that. So, and everyone in the participant, if you have any questions, do write down your questions in the chat so we can ask the speaker, Ms. Afzaa, if anything. Don't be shy, you may ask anything regarding the talk just now.
Or if there's any questions for Hyrule and his experience with us, please feel free to ask him too.
Okay, in the meantime, I also have another questions from our KBG group. This one is, how can we as Gombak Rovers to involve in this initiative?
So as I mentioned just now in the previous slides, there's many ways that you guys can get involved. So the main thing would be helping out in the nursery. So when we start to collect for the seeds and start to look after these little saplings, we'll need lots of help to do the seed processing, to help to germinate, to help transplant these little seedlings. There'll be tens of thousands of them to do, right? So that's the surest way to help out. That's one. Two, get involved with the tree planting activities. So in the future, we'll carry out tree planting activities for sure. Three, on a more personal level, there's a lot that you guys can do to raise awareness about this. And also, I guess, make the change within yourselves and your community to make the world like a bit more sustainable, because that helps everyone.
Yeah.
But of course, if at the end of this webinar, if you are interested to come and volunteer, please shoot either myself or Hyrule an email, or when you fill in the form, you can just put in the notes and Hyrule will refer you guys to come.
All right, that would be amazing. Something about dipterocarp just now. You said something about masting or something. How do you spell that?
It's M-A-S-T-I-N-G.
Masting. All right, got it.
Yeah. I can share with you. So it's basically, it refers to the synchronous production of large number of seeds of fruit by a population of trees. So it predominantly occurs with wind-pollinated tree species and occurs among the dipterocarp species. So let's say, for example, you know, the image that you guys see here in the presentation, you see the forest canopy is all like uniform green.
Yeah.
In a mass fruiting or mass seeding event, you'll see the pops up colors of like white, yellow. So it's not uniform green. So the trees start to flower and form the seeds.
That's cool. It's cool. All right. Anyone in the participants would like to have any more questions for Ms. Afzaa? Maybe they're typing in the chats. Let's give us a bit of yeah, we'll open for one last question from anybody.
Oh, one more thing to add, I forgot to mention just now, is that the Scouts work that we did in Sabah, we gave them an environmental education badge. So that's something that you guys can get to.
That's exciting. Anyone? One more last question for Ms. Afzaa. We'll give them a minute. Oh, another questions, random question in the KBG group. How do we choose a good baby tree?
For what purpose?
Not so sure. It's a general question given by them. It's just really how to choose good baby tree. And I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, for me, any baby tree is a good tree.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay, I think if there's no more questions, I think we can take a group photo now.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Let's wrap it up with a group photo.
If everyone can turn on their cameras and smile.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Everyone, don't be shy. Let's open up our cameras for a group photo.
Look at all of you in your uniform.
Oh, you.
Maybe Afzaa can remove the screen sharing first, so we can get the full.
Okay, one
Oh,
second.
the screen sharing, right.
It's okay, boleh.
Is that fine for you guys?
Yep, I'm ready. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, wait. Someone is opening the camera.
So everyone got their shots?
Asma, Kira.
Asma, is the
Alright,
screenshot
ready,
ready in? All right, cool.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. One more freestyle. 1, 2, 3. Alright.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for everyone's participation today. It was very informative and very helpful for us to know how to do the conservation work and who to reach out. And may it inspires everyone to love nature and motivates you to join and actively participate the conservation activities, and especially done by TRCRC. And I hope everyone has gained more knowledge than before and spread this awareness to their family and friends. So I believe we will be giving a Google form link for the e-certificates for everyone. And also that Google form link will have a section for you to put any feedback or suggestion or any comments from today's webinar for our improvement for our future events. So yeah, everyone got that link in the chat. And you may fill up the Google form for your information, and we will send you the e-certificates for everyone. All right, and to that, I will bid farewell and thank you for everyone's time today, and goodbye and stay safe during this pandemic. Thank you everyone for your participation. Thank you, Ms. Afzaa. Thank you, Hyrule. Thank you, live person and also media.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Iman.
Thank you. No problem for the chat. Yep. Stay safe, everyone. And
Who's
thank you, Ms.
Iman?
Afzaa. Thank you, Ms. Afzaa, for this great presentation and a good sharing and exposure on trees conservation by Mohammed Shafiq. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.